everybody, welcome. I'm Tim Schatz. I'm the Director of Analytics at H&L, and Sean's Head of Engineering. We are on the analytics team, but we do sort of like to test things out. We work with data. So we've been working alongside with the creative team to test out a lot of these AI tools. So here's what we're going to do for today. We're going to be focusing on Midjourney, and we're going to do a live demonstration on these screens doing prompting. So here's what we're going to do. We're first going to walk through an example of a storyboard that we put together for our Toyota client. So this was a campaign we did a few years ago for a concept called the NorCal Triple. We're going to walk through that storyboard generation. We're then going to jump over to another client of ours, McDonald's, and show how we can do some stylistic themes of French fries and show how we can do some controls of the generative AI within Midjourney. And then lastly, we want to get some input from you all. What do you guys want to see and test out in Midjourney today? So we're going to test some things out. And I guess to steal a theme from the last presenter, we're going to fuck around and find out a little bit. So let's do this. So we're going to put together a storyboard here. And I guess one thing to note, we're only really using this for storyboarding, for conceptualizing things, to get the images sort of in front of our client so we can sell through an idea. But nothing that's actually going through the AI is becoming sort of customer facing. So let's take a look. So for this NorCal Triple in Toyota, we're going to start off with a RAV4 at the beach with surfboards attached to the roof. So that's going to be our first scene. We're going to have the RAV4 on the beach side with surfboards attached to the roof. So we can type that in here, and you'll see how quickly we can get an image generating through Midjourney. And yes, you have to wait while John slowly types on the computer.
Sorry, here we go. Hopefully not that slow.
Yeah, so with Midjourney, as many of you know already, since you've really tested this out, it spits out 4 different versions of your concept. And so here's 4 different concepts, or 4 different versions of what we asked for, right? You can see the RAV4, it's on the beach side, it looks beautiful. This really does sort of show some of the beauty of Northern California and what these people might do with their car. So we've specified the subject, right, which is the car, the location, which is at the beach. We've given it some cool accessories to show that these athletes can go and surf. So it's pretty cool. So let's say as part of this scene, we also want to show the people actually surfing. So now we can say, let's show some people, in the water with surfboards, actually surfing and taking advantage of all the fun activities you can do in Northern California. So here we've got surfer catching a big wave in the California coast. Let's see that. Awesome. So we've set the stage. We've showed the vehicle driving to the location. And now we've got a surfer, right? And we haven't really put a lot of detail into these prompts thus far. We really just asked it to show just this scene. So that kind of shows the first scene of what we're doing in this ad, right? We want to show our client what we're thinking in terms of this spot. Let's see. So now we're going to show the surfers hanging out on the beach, really showing what you can do with Midjourney here. And you can imagine, this does take some time, but think of how long this would take to find all of this through Getty Images and how little control you may have over those more stock photo tools. So now we've got the RAV4 on the beach with the surfers hanging out by the waves. This is really starting to put our story together. So next in this spot, the RAV4 is going to drive up to the forest, and they're going to go mountain biking. So let's take a look at what that next scene would look like. We've got 2020 white RAV4. So we're specifying the year of the vehicle, the color, the model, and we're going to make sure it has mountain bikes attached to the vehicle up in the forest. So the prompt here is 2020 white RAV4 with mountain bikes on the roof rack driving up a forest road.
Takes a second, it's not instantaneous, but internet bearing with us.
Yeah, so there we go. So we've got the white RAV4. We've specified the make, the model, the location, the accessories on the roof of the vehicle. Starting to really get a feel of what the scene could look like. But let's say we want to control the camera angle of this scene. So we could really take that same prompt and then say top-down camera angle and have a little more control of what's going on in this scene.
So while he's doing that, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, please feel free to jump in.
What I see is, this is wonderful. so many clients would say, well, this is good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's the scary part.
Right, as in like just use these images for the ad?
Seriously.
Or said differently, like, why can't I just use this?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's a great question, and something that, Carlo over here, who's behind the camera, very talented director of cinematography at our agency, brought up as we were talking yesterday is we have to make sure we're not selling shots that we can't actually do in the real world. So if we're doing this top-down camera angle that maybe we think is really cool, if we can't actually get a camera up there or a drone at that angle, it's not possible to put that shot together. But for the most part, there may be some generative AI stuff that will be able to be used for actual work, but we're really not doing any of that so far. The car might not be perfect. It might not perfectly reflect what the car actually looks like. Maybe the side of the car isn't exactly what the model looks like in real life. So we have to be careful we're not false advertising. Yeah. And the AI might not have a perfect representation of what the vehicle really looks like. Maybe the sizing of the tires isn't quite right, but it gives you a good idea, at least to show the client what we're going to produce.
Yeah, it's a great approximation, and one of the things that you really got to think about, particularly about like the legal framework around these tools, is sort of your ownership of the input and output, right? Like a lot of aspects around that just legally have not been sort of fully defined and fleshed out yet. So that's definitely something you want to definitely consult with your clients on if they're asking for you to use it directly.
Yeah, so we definitely would suggest being careful for that.
Cool. Yeah, and then we can go ahead and we can do a few other shots here, right? Just to sort of supplement this. Obviously we're showing bikes, we're showing the car and the location, but we want to see maybe some additional shots that might go into some bigger ad production, right? So maybe we want to get a shot of a mountain biker, and we want a POV action shot of them riding down a dirt road.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. It can get the POV angle if we ask for it too.
Yeah.
Almost looks like a video game. And again, with the creative team and production team, we'd want to make sure before we present this to a client that this shot can actually be done in the real world. Like, can we get a cinematography style camera mounted to that person while they're mountain biking? That's not something we would know about, but our creative and production team would be able to give input on if that's actually feasible.
Yeah, you got a question of it.
What happens if you have a close-up shot of the guy on the bike?
Let's see it.
Try it right here.
Yeah, if you guys have any ideas you want to see generated, please feel free to jump in. We're happy to take input from you all. Wish we had some background music or something.
I asked that because if you want that character to come back later, or maybe he was surfing and now he's on a bike, how do you...
Okay, so, and this is kind of interesting because it's kind of related a little bit to how the AI photo booth actually works. Actually, within Midjourney specifically, there is an argument called cref, right? And this is just a little insight to how that photo booth is actually working. We're using the cref argument and injecting your picture in there, right? And it's generating sort of an approximation of you. So if there's some consistent character that you want to have across storyboards, you get the image, whether it's a real life image or whether it's a Midjourney generated image, and then you can repost it in the prompt with the cref argument, so that way you can have consistency of character across the imagery.
Right, and that cref is character reference.
Yeah.
So if you've got a picture of someone or you've generated an image of a character you want to reuse, you can use that as a character reference through other prompts then.
Can you do live video on this too?
Unfortunately, Midjourney is not a video generating model. A lot of those are still not many of those are yet publicly released for usage.
How do you upload a cref? So if I wanted my face in there, I could take a picture of me.
Yeah.
Upload that. But how do you do that? Because all these are, you're generating images from nothing.
Right. So Yeah, and actually, so like normally we utilize Discord. Here, I think it might be this right here. Okay, cool. So for instance, we can actually, let's see here. Let's post something up here. Here's one of me, right? Hold on.
How do we want to see John? Let's get input from you all.
Yeah.
What should we do with John here?
So like to your point, right, how you do it is like, it depends on the interface. Like how we're doing it for the photo booth is like actually like the images get like a URL, and that's how I inject that URL, and it's able to read from the URL to get your image. Depends on the interface. Here, we can just directly upload an image from our desktop or whatever we'd like to do, and it'll be able to reference that in the other generations it does. So it's really just dependent upon the interface that you're working through.
Because I've been working through Discord with this. This interface looks different than what I.
So to your point, for on Discord, drop your image into the chat, right-click it, and you should be able to copy actually a URL from it now that it's in the Discord chat. And then when you use cref, just paste that URL. And then you'll be able to start doing generations. Now, if you use a real-life photo of a person, as you guys can sort of see with this AI photo booth, you're going to get an approximation of that person. It is much better with its own imagery in keeping sort of consistency of that character. With like real-life people, it's an okay approximation is what you're going to get, right? That's really the sort of the big limitation here with sort of Midjourney. Let's hit that. I haven't used it in this particular interface, so I don't want to chance something here. But maybe we can talk a little bit. So like, we're on this Toyota NorCal triple, right? And I think.
So the last stage was going to the mountains with skis. So we're going to have that same 2020 white Toyota RAV4. So we've specified the vehicle, and it's going to be driving through snowy roads with skis attached to the roof. So this is that third scene within this spot that we're recommending to our client.
A little bit of a delay here, right? Live demo, but you can sort of see just on these three broad concepts, these three broad creative concepts, just how quickly, we've generated probably 20 images here, right? In less than 10, 15 minutes here, right? And imagine someone having to sort of compile these, go out, go get these shots, right? How much time, how much investment, how much energy that would take. That's one of the really big applications here is just like the speed of iteration that you can sort of do. Yeah, go ahead.
You can define the coordinates and the time zone, for example, to define the environment.
Yes, totally, right? So, like we usually follow like a very basic structure, right? The subject, the camera position, or art style, the location, and then supporting content, right? There is a whole science behind prompting and like what you're gonna get out the other side. But to your point, right, let's just do the exact same prompt. And I'm gonna do, at night or at dusk. Right, we should get relatively similar generation, just at a different sort of time of day, right? You can just be very iterative, right? You can get multiple different shots, different angles, different action types, different times, different locations, basically almost anything that you can just about imagine, you can sort of produce with Midjourney in terms of imagery. Maybe we want to get action shot, right, of a Toyota RAV4 driving quickly down a snowy mountain road. This is the part where Carla would tell us that that's not possible because we don't want the driver to kill themselves driving quickly down a snowy mountain road, right? Of course, we want to see some shots of like skiers to sort of supplement it, right? So we can go skier going down snowy mountain. We can take that sort of same prompt, we can reuse that text, right? Skier with family standing next to a white Toyota RAV4. Right, and just about anything you can sort of think of, right? You can sort of get these pretty quick and dirty generations out. And then of course, right, the sort of speed and utility of this interface is that, you know, you can just quickly sort of iterate and get these different types of shots that you're looking for, right? You know, we've got these different sort of family groups here. Maybe we want to just see just a, you know, a single, maybe just a single skier.
Yeah, I like one of those shots. Just want to change that like orange coat to red and like make adjustments in it.
So they're in Midjourney specifically, right? Like some of these things are very specific to tools. Like I would say like Midjourney for image generation, it's pretty much like one of the best in class tools right now, right? And specifically in Midjourney, yes, there are some advanced things where you can do where you can say crop or mask a certain portion of the image and say, hey, I just want you to regenerate just this part. Again, like that's a little bit easier in sort of the Discord interface, but you can do that. Of course, you can try to like prompt your way there, but there's a lot of techniques within Midjourney, and what Midjourney sort of works on is sort of this controllability aspect, right? Maybe there's just portions, maybe you like 90% of the image, you just want to do alter just one piece of it, right? You want to change the color of a person's jacket, for instance. Yeah, you can totally do that. In addition to that, there's also this concept of variability, right? So just naturally within the technology, right? How does Midjourney sort of work beneath the surface? And we'll get too much into the detail, but there's an aspect of randomness, right? Of random mathematics within it, right? So we can actually go in here and I can just say, hey, I like this image, but I want like a few variations. So I can just hit very strong on there, and maybe I want to see like vary it subtly, right? And now I'm going to generate of just that one image, I'm just going to generate a few variations of it, right? So there's a lot of mechanisms of control within Midjourney that are not really there present with other image generation services just yet. So if you're going to really start playing around in this space, I would advise sort of starting here, because this again seems to be like the best in class tool for doing this variety of things. Yeah.
So I'm not an art director, so I don't play around with this a lot. But what I've struggled with is whenever you try to have an alphabet or a word or something in the image, is that something that you guys have cracked, or is that just because I'm using like Copilot?
Yeah, totally. So Copilot, right? Underlying Copilot is sort of the GPT class models DALL-E, right? So really it depends. So text, they've come a long way. They really have come a long way. No generation is going to be absolutely perfect, but like, let's just say I want to see a skier holding a sign that says hello, right? Let's just see that. And usually you'll get one that's like pretty close or not too far off, right? There we go, right? You can see there's some that are a little funky, but we've got for some reason, this guy's got a sign that's like covered in blood. I'm not sure what's going on there, but right. We've got a pretty close approximation, right? Some of these could pass. And sometimes, right, again, there's this aspect of randomness in it. So sometimes just because, hey, I didn't get it in the first shot, we can just repeat it, right? Get a few extra generations to see, hey, do we get something out the back that's actually good, right?
And you can always take the images from Midjourney, export them, and bring them into a tool like Photoshop, and have a lot more control over, text, details of the image. A lot of the Adobe suite also has the generative AI stuff built within it now. So the question earlier about can you change the color of someone's jacket, that's called in-painting. And essentially what you want to do is trace around just part of the image and then tell it only change what's inside these boundaries that I traced and generate a different colored jacket. So that could be very easily done within Photoshop. And same here, if we really like these images, but we just want to change what it says on that sign, I might port this over to Photoshop, just select the sign itself, and then say generate just the words hello. And that in painting would keep everything else the same within the photo, except for that portion that you traced around.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Quick question. So how much does this cost HL? And going back to what was talked about earlier with technology being obsolete in 6 months, do you feel like you've been able to monetize it, or do you feel like it's...
Yeah, I mean, I would say this particular technology, again, it's not, we haven't really like directly, I wouldn't say we've like directly monetized it, right? It's more of like a productivity tool, right? And yeah, it's creating an efficiency, right? You know, where we might have to work with like, you know, multiple sort of storyboard artists, or where, hey, you know, like things take time, communication, right? There's many aspects to all of these sort of endeavors, right? We sort of shave down some of the aspects of that, and like, hey, that's a savings, right? Like, hey, we didn't need to go to Getty Images and pay a bunch of money for a bunch of stock photos, or we didn't need to like go to location to like shoot a storyboard shot, right? We can just sort of, you know, from the comfort of our home, do our generations, right?
And Midjourney is not expensive. I think a license is maybe like $100 a month, and there's different tiers. You can pay for speed. You can get a very baseline subscription as well to get just the basics, and you can sort of upgrade to higher tiers if you want a little more control and speed.
What you're really getting for the money by putting more dollars into it is you're getting just that scale and speed, right? So, you know, like I think like one of the top, you know, the top entrance is like $120. The one just below that's like professional. It's like $60 a month. And with that, right, you can have like 12 concurrent generations running at once. So like we haven't really shown it here, but for instance, and I'm not sure if it'll work in this interface, it will work directly in the Discord interface, but there's a concept of multi-prompting, right? So I mean, we'll just try it here. Maybe I want to see, and let's see if it works here, but this will definitely work in Discord if it doesn't work right here, but here we go, we're gonna do something live, right? So I want a Toyota RAV4, and I want it I'm using these curly brackets, right? Mountains, and I'm comma separating the multiple prompts I want to generate, right? So mountains, I want it in the forest, and maybe I want it in a swamp, right? Let's see if that works. Bam, works like a charm, right? So right there with one prompt, using curly brackets and comma delineation between the various concepts, I was able to take one prompt and generate 3 separate instances of it, each injecting one of those words. So, right, we can see one has the mountains, one has the forest, one has the swamp, right? And you can do that multi-prompt injection like at multiple spots, right? So maybe I want a black or a white or a blue Toyota RAV4 driving in the forest or in the mountains, right? For example. And there, right, I just generated 5 separate instances of that prompt. So when you pay more money, you're giving yourself a greater ability to run more of those at once. So you could, you know, in theory, you could quickly iterate and do like, you know, 100 prompts in just a few minutes, right? So that's the sort of superpower, yeah.
So going back to, I think the term was in painting. You said
Yeah, in painting.
Going back to that example, do you, with GPT-4o coming out, do you see a workflow or an eventual workflow where you take the image that it generated, kind of feeding it back to GPT-4o and saying, hey, can you describe this image so I can feed it back to Midjourney? And
so Midjourney actually has a describe feature. So you can actually just dump an image and say, describe it, and it's going to try to give you, hey, here's the prompt I think would generate this image. To your point, GPT-4o just came out, and it's what's called multimodal. So it can take text, it can take images, right? And so actually, that's actually part of the AI photo booth as well, because Midjourney generates 4 images. So we have a GPT layer looking at those 4 images and trying to pick which one is best, and then telling the script, telling the automation to say, this is the one to upscale, and that's the one that gets sent to the website. So yes, there is some intelligence there that you can use. You can use GPT models in that way, but that particular feature is already actually baked into Midjourney.
And something else we tested, sort of combining Midjourney and GPT while we were testing out this demo a couple weeks ago. We took some of the outputs here and we told GPT, hey, take these pictures, take this concept of a NorCal triple and give us a basic script as a starting point. And it literally wrote an entire script for us. Not perfect, but like a decent script for a storyboard and concept that we could then go back and edit. So being able to take outputs from here and run it through another AI tool is absolutely something you can do.
Yeah, completely. Cool. So why don't we have a little bit of fun, right? Why don't we see some of the wackier stuff you can sort of do with this, right? And we'll sort of look at McDonald's French fries as an example for that, right? So one of the things I would sort of want to highlight here is, particularly Midjourney is really good for like multiple art styles, right? So maybe I want McDonald's French fries as a portrait in the style. It's a very famous artist, Jean-Léon Gérôme. Right? We can see what we get out there. We're getting some weirdness here, as you can see, right? But you can do so much with that, right? For instance, maybe we want to see, hey, we want to do a concept for it. We want to do like a Pixar style concept, right? And so we can do that again. Let's use this text. And I'm just going to come up here and I'm going to say McDonald's French fries, right? Pixar style animation, titled, right? My Dreamy Fries.
Now, I do want to call out quickly on that last example. We did specify an artist. And this, of course, brings up a lot of ethical concerns in terms of, is it right or wrong to bring up other artists' styles in your photography? And that's something that you as an agency need to think through. It's definitely something that we are chatting about internally and generally avoiding in our agency. But it definitely is an ethical consideration for everyone to think through.
Yeah, completely, right? We can run through a few more examples,
and
right?
I guess real quick, we only have about 2 minutes left. Christy just came in and told me to start wrapping things up. So is there any other style that anybody here wants to see these French fries in before we run through some more of ours? Anybody have any input?
Have you used this for real product placement, like in a room, like let's say you've got a refrigerator or appliance client, and you're putting it into 2 different styles of kitchens and 3 different styles of kitchens. Have you done it for those purposes?
So like, could we specify, like, show a picture of French fries, like, on the refrigerator? Is that what you mean?
No, actually designing a room.
Oh, designing a room.
Like a set, like a temporary kitchen, or things like that.
Yeah, Midjourney can do those sort of, you can define what sort of style room you want to see. Is it contemporary? Is it mid-century modern? It does a pretty good job of doing those sort of room designs. And in fact, I've seen people using it for interior design conceptual ideas as well. It might be challenging to really control all those levels of detail of what the room layout is going to look like, what kind of furniture is there, but you definitely can get different stylistic interior design ideas. John?
Yeah, so is this for any voiceover or audio?
We've not used this professionally for any voiceover or audio, but John and I have definitely made some pretty hilarious songs using AI. So the technology exists, but it's you don't have a ton of control over it quite yet.
Yeah, definitely. If you're interested in sort of audio, like songs, Suno and Udio, those are like the 2 big ones right now, and you'd be very surprised about what you can generate. If you're looking for voices, really like 11 Labs is the main player right now.
So is this kind of where we start to play into the deep fake?
Yeah, well,
Oh yeah, all those pictures we took for the AI photo booth, we're going to deep fake all of yours.
What were those other audio ones called?
Udio, Suno, those are both for like songs. They can also do like some stand-up comedy, like comedy tracks. Not great, but they can do it. And also 11 labs if you just want to do voice replication.
Yeah, well, everybody, thank you so much. We are at time for this breakout session,
Yeah.
so thank you for joining.
Appreciate you.